of the jet sitting on this catapult, the engines at full speed, the ship in the wind, then whatever wind nature's making, plus the speed we're producing, and the catapult, 1,200 pounds of steam launching that aircraft down this deck will get the plane clear of the deck. I remember being out here sometimes as a young man watching, and planes would visibly disappear under the bow of the ship and come back up. Quite amazing. Sometimes you think they're going down, they're not coming back up. As you look over here, you'll see the green area, a little plate right there. That is one of the catapults that were covered. As we say, the ship was in ready reserve. Below us right here is the O3 level. That was where the Admirals captains were, the staterooms, the CIC we saw earlier in the video, or depending on where we cut it, maybe later in the video. But this is right above the O3 level. As you look back, that is a lot of ship back there. You get a picture of the island. You've got the flag bridge. You've got the captain's bridge. The Admiral's bridge is the one below. You have the ship's bridge above that. And then the little windows up on the far right of that island, that's primary flight where we just came from. Some of the masts have been taken off. You Ranger sailors might notice we're missing some of our radars. They're down in the hangar deck. As we walk back this way, why don't you join me at the other end of the flight deck? I'll see you down there. So one thing I want to bring your attention to as we're transiting down to the aft end of the flight deck is if we pan the camera over here to our left, you're going to see the USS Constellation. In between the Connie and the Ranger is the USS Dubuque. The other side of the Constellation is the USS Kitty Hawk, which is now in ready reserve, and that will be in ready reserve status until the USS Ford comes online, which will be coming online in 2015, the next generation aircraft carrier. Previous to the Ford, from 68 forward, they've been Nimitz class carriers. On the far side of the Kitty Hawk, and the numbers, you can't see it from the island, is the USS Independence. The Navy, if they could have their way, would take these three carriers, the Ranger, the Connie, and the Indy, take them out tomorrow and sink them. It costs about $200,000 a year to have these things sit here. As you know, we're in a budget crisis. They need the space for ships coming out of the fleet in the mothballs, and so they're working right now to scrap these three carriers, the Forrestal and the Saratoga on the East Coast. The JFK is the only ship remaining in the supercarrier class to be up for donation, and so I suggest you contact the JFK folks and make a donation and help them save one of these ships for future generations. Let's go back to the back end of the flight deck here. All right, friends, what we're standing in front of here, this used to be the visual landing system, the BLS, or the optical landing system, OLS. I was a sniper, give me Airedales. I don't know what you called it. I know it was referred to as a meatball. That's what the pilots called it. What you had here was a series of lights. Yellow, amber, and green was a glide slope the pilots used. They would watch that meatball. It would tell them when they were on the proper glide path to catch one of the wires on board the ship here. All right, shipmates, where I'm now standing, again, I'm not an Airedale, so forgive me. The visual landing lights are up there, that was correct, but this is a landing signal officer's platform. This is where the pilots and the LSO, the landing signal officer, will be standing. There's nets down here. If the plane was going to crash, they could dive over in his nets and save themselves. So, small correction there. If you look at the World War II shots, you'll see a guy, they call them paddles, and he'll be doing this with paddles prior to the light system, prior to the intercom system between the plane. And then he would put the paddles and go like this, and that would be land. Well, a little more high-tech now. You can still see them here, 6, 7 guys here. They all got a button up in the air when the plane's coming in. That's the wave off button. The lights flash, the pilot goes around and comes back. So, little correction there. Now let's go see that rudder. So, I'm standing in front of an aircraft carrier rudder. They're rather large. So, to give you an idea, I'm about 6 feet tall. I'm walking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10 paces. Pretty good sized rudder. If you walk over here with me, this is actually where the shaft would come through from the steering mechanism through the bottom of the ship. Have a hole here, and this is what would turn the ship. There's 2 rudders on this aircraft carrier. Let's walk around over here. You see the surface here. Let me jump up. Now I'm standing on top of this rudder. It kind of gives you an idea of how big these things really are. Let me go to the other end. I'm at the other end now. Pretty good size. If you look at the top end here, you can see the holes I was talking about in this guy right here. This is where the shafts will go through these holes that are covered up with wood right here. We have the shafts on the other side, so walk around with me. Let's look at those shafts. They've got them stored here. They've got a little bit of wood around them, and obviously that wouldn't be here. But here's the metal shaft, and these things are about 25 feet long. Pretty good size, and there's 2 of them here. In addition to these 2 large rudders, there's 4 propeller shafts, 4 propellers. The propellers are about 2 stories tall, a little bit bigger than a 2-story house. So they're a large ship, takes large rudders. So that's the flight deck tour, folks. We're going to head back down below. So welcome to the 03 level, shipmates. The 03 level, as many of you know, and those of you who don't know the modern supercarrier, the 03 level is a deck sandwiched in between the flight deck and the hangar deck. It runs a link to the ship on both sides, port and starboard. They have knee knockers. If you look there, you'll see a knee knocker. They call them knee knockers because you kind of have to lift your leg up and bend down a little bit not to hit your head. They call them knee knockers for a reason. New guys hit their shins all the time. We're now going to go into CIC, Combat Information Center aboard Ranger. This is the nerve center when the ship is doing drills or actual combat operations. Everything is being directed and administered from these restricted areas here. So please follow me into CIC now. So as you can see, you have array and arrays of monitors, radars, computers. You would have the Combat Information Center officer in here. You would have all the information from all the other ships, the planes, submarines, satellites would be coming in here. They would decipher it and make the proper battle decisions, whatever the situation dictated. As we walk forward here, many of you who saw the movie Top Gun, all the interior scenes of Top Gun were filmed on board Ranger. If you remember the scene at the end where the cigar chomping admiral is in the room, they've launched Maverick, he won't engage the enemy, the catapult is down, they can't launch another plane. The guy comes up to the admiral, says the catapult will be ready in 5 minutes. The bald-headed admiral's chomping on a cigar. He says this is going to be over in 3 minutes. That was filmed in this space right here. If you were a sailor on board Ranger, regardless of what your position was, if you did not have security clearance or a reason to be in here, you would never come in this room. I served on the ship for 3 years. I was never in these spaces. I had no reason to be in here. I worked below decks. So this is kind of a treat for me to see what was behind the mysterious doors as they were. Again, we have more monitors, more control panels. If you notice the boards up there, they're plexiglass. Right over here you would have the commander of the Combat Information Center room would be sitting here directing the action. You would have sailors behind those boards writing backwards, so these individuals here could read that writing. They actually had a school in the Navy that taught the kids how to write backwards with a grease pencil. So quite interesting there. They still use these boards like that on modern ships today. So we're going to go forward now to the Admiral's import cabin and also the captain's import cabin. And they live a little bit nicer than you've seen upstairs in their at-sea cabin. So won't you join me? As we go forward here, we're just going to have we have a flag communication annex here, a lot of little offices, little building spaces that different sailors would use. We go forward here, we have a flag, more communications for the flag administration of the ship. Again, the flag officer is controlling the entire battle group of the ship from the ship here. Once again, if you notice the tile, we're transitioning to blue tile. Blue tile again is the officers on board Ranger. This will be guarded by Marines. They would be in charge of keeping this space spotless, and this was spotless and immaculate when the ship was underway and operational. As we go forward here, it looks like the Admiral got a demotion because we've lost one of our stars. So sorry about that, Admiral. We'll see about getting it back to you. But this will be the Admiral's passageway. If you weren't had business up here, you would not be in this area. There would be Marines there, and they would be ensured that you would not be up in this area. Come on in. What we have here is the Admiral's lounge area. He could entertain VIPs in here. He could have meetings in here if he wanted with a couple of the captain or whoever he needed to be talking to at the time. This was also just his living room when he was unwinding. Adjacent to this room here is the Admiral's bedroom. Now I live down below decks in an area about twice this size with 120 guys. So as you can see, joining the Navy as an Admiral is a lot better than joining the Navy as an E1. We have a walk-in closet here, not a big one, but for a ship that's a lot of space for a closet. We have plenty of locker space over here, dressers. The captain and the Admiral, the only ones I know that had double beds on the ship. Very nice bed here. No bunks. You're not sleeping with 14 other guys. Nice blue carpeting on the floor. Back in here, this will be the Admiral's head. You have a shower here. Again, carpet on the floor. This was a very, very nice area considering this is a warship and how much space is at a premium. So we had a saying in the Navy, RHIP, rank, houses, privileges. And as you can see, going to sea as an Admiral beats going to sea as an E1. Let's go see his conference room. Follow me. Across the passageway from the Admiral's bedroom and living room, we have his meeting area and his mess. Now the Admiral would have his own staff. He would have his own cooks, his own officers, his own counsel. He was a self-contained command. And this would be where he would do his business meetings and where his mess cooks would make him breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Why don't you follow me on in? In here we have the Admiral's mess. As you can see, it's not that big. They were probably only feeding about 15 or 20 people in here. The Admiral and his staff for the most part. Some of his lower enlisted staff would eat down below decks with the rest of the ship's company. So not a real big kitchen, a little bigger than your average home kitchen, but not too small. Sink. You have your ice maker, small stove, refrigerator, and let's step into his conference room. Stepping into the Admiral's conference room, you can see there's a little bit more room in here. This is where he would have his strategy meetings with his staff, perhaps co-counsel with the commanding officer of the ship. He might fly a commanding officer and executive officer from one of the other ships on Ranger to have a meeting. So this would be his conference area. You would have coffee, snacks be laid out here for the guests of the Admiral. As we walk over here, and unfortunately, because the ship is in the shipyard, you're not going to be able to see. Just have a small cabin here, which is probably going to be the Chief of Staff's cabin for the Admiral. And he would be the Admiral's elected Vice President, taking care of the Admiral. So, as you can see, once again, joining the Navy as a Admiral is much more, shall we say, comfortable than joining as an E1. Later on in the movie, you'll see where guys like me slept. We didn't know this was here. If we knew this was here, there might be a mutiny on the ship. As we leave the Admiral's area here, follow me up to the captain's in-port cabin area. This way, please. Now we're going to go through a small yellow hatch here. Normally, when the ship was operational before decommissioning, these wouldn't be here. The ship was on ready reserve for about 7 years, being a reserve carrier. If they needed to activate it in time of war, this is the ship they would have took out. So the ship was on a dehumidifier system to keep the moisture out of the ship and help maintain the ship. So we're going to have to kind of duck through here, but normally this wouldn't have been here when the ship was operational. So kind of a tight fit there, but again, that wasn't there when the ship was operational. As we go down the passageway here, the inactive ship folks would store some lockers here. These wouldn't have been here. This place would have been spotless, shiny. The Marines, again, this would be an area the Marines would take care of. So as we walk into here, again, very nice digs. Once you've achieved the command of an aircraft carrier, you have a little bit of privilege. This room here would have been his office, his meeting area. Under all the furniture here, there is a conference table. He could have communicated with his department heads or the Admiral staff, whatever needed to be done at the time. Through these French doors here, this would have been the captain's private small office, maybe sitting here writing a letter home to his wife or his kids, or just contemplating what he was going to do as the next step. As we move forward here, this will be the captain's in-port bedroom. So he has a fairly large room here. We have closets over here to hang his gear. There would have been a double bed in here. This would have been the captain's head. So the digs down here, if you remember the little room we saw upstairs, his at-sea cabin was not quite this comfortable or spacious. When the ship was out to sea, if they weren't doing flight ops, if we were just in a stand-down mode, then what would happen is the captain could take that break and he'd come down here and relax a little bit. But when the ship was flying airplanes, the captain